In this video, I want to go over and explain in more detail how the MyITLab system works. Now, this is the main tool that you'll be using for your labs and your homework. It'll be the main system for your assignments and your assessments. So for the majority of the bulk of the course, we're going to be using MyITLab. Now, we're running this course in an asynchronous mode, meaning that, of course, there's no synchronized lectures that you can come onto the site and perform your assigned activities at your leisure. But at the end of the week, we will be doing a synchronized assessment. That's on Fridays. Of course, you've seen that in my course outline between 12:30 and 4:30. The assessments only take 10 minutes. So and I'll provide you with more time if you need that. 15 minutes probably if you need that. So they're very quick assessments summarizing the week's activities. So the way that the course has been designed is that you'll be giving multiple ways of learning the learning objectives inside of each chapter. Now, the way that this course starts off, it starts off with an operating systems, and I'm getting students to go through those materials on their own. But when we get into Excel, I will be giving recorded lectures just like I would if I was delivering this in a face-to-face mode. And I would be posting them on YouTube with links in Blackboard that will simulate the same learning objectives that you will see in the MyITLab. Now, in addition to that, if you do have questions, you can contact me during my office hours. I will put on a link in the Blackboard called Office Hour, and it will be an interactive kind of a streaming, kind of a Zoom, they call it Collaborate, that you can pop in. I'll be there. If you can just have a question, it's like an office hour. You can just click on. You don't have to show your face. You can just leave a chat. We can chat. We can share screens. If you have problems or questions, I'm available during that time. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that as well. Now, once we get into week 3, I will be posting my lectures. And again, that will be another way of showing you how to go through the learning objectives. And it's just my take, it's my lectures that I provide during a face-to-face that I'm recording, and you can watch them at your leisure. All right, so in this video, I'm really focused around showing you how to use this system and looking specifically at the learning objectives that you need to go through, how to perform an assignment, how to perform a quiz, a simulation, and then look for your feedback. So there's a lot of things we want to cover in this particular video. All right, so to get started, you'll notice my screen might look a little bit different than yours because I'm an instructor, so you'll have these extra links here, but you should find getting started, notifications, the assignment, calendar, etc. I've already gone through this in a previous video. For example, the assignment calendar, these are things that you need to do on a particular day. I'm pretty strict with this because I give students ample time. For example, you've got, at the time of this recording, over a week to work on the first, or to submit the first assessment. This is the first quiz. So I'm assuming that during the first week of class, you'll be performing the operating systems materials in the IT lab, and that you get practiced and familiar with that. Then you'll have the next week to practice, and then during Fridays, you'll have to do a small 10-minute assessment during that time. All right. Now, from there, you will have an assignment, usually on Sundays, but ours, I really don't get students to submit their assignments until May 30th, and you can see that in the course outline, or if you click and you open up this particular calendar link, it will show you which one. So on May the 30th, you need to submit Word assignment chapter number 1, and I'll go through and explain how to do those assignments. All right, so the course has been set up with a kind of a pattern, as you can see here. Every Friday we have an assessment, a 10-minute assessment, like a quiz, and these quizzes are simulated, so they're interactive. It'll show you an actual screen, it'll ask you a question, you have to perform what the question wants you to do. Those questions are based strictly from the MyITLab. So once you've done the simulations, you've done the reading, and you've done the assignment, you should be more than prepared to get a very high mark in these quizzes. All right, so let's get back into, we've already done the to-do list. The to-do and what's complete is another tool for students to go through. And this happens to me sometimes as well. Like when I'll open up a link, and sometimes it won't show, and then I just click off and click on and just refresh it and try again. It's like a hiccup when it's downloading. So just remember to do that. Just try it again. I guess I do get questions from students asking me why it does that. And it's just a bit of a glitch, I think, in the MyITLab. All right, so if you open up the to-do list, you'll see here, the first thing you have to do is operating systems quiz, which is scheduled on May the 21st. And it says it has to be done by 4:30. So this will open up at 12:30. It will go until 4:30. So you have a 4-hour window that you have to log in and write a 10-minute assessment. You have one attempt at doing that. And the quiz is worth, I believe the first one's only worth 1%, or some of them are worth 2%, mostly. If you miss a quiz, there's no rewrites on quizzes. So make sure you log in at that time. You've got a 4-hour window to complete a 10-minute assessment. All right, and that's the only synchronized component other than the midterm and the final exam in this course. All right, let's get back to the former page here. I'm just going to close the screen altogether. And let's just hit the back arrow here for the main. Now, let's go back into the course materials. Now, course materials is where you'll find the entire course laid out. And I've organized it in a weekly module to make it kind of easier to manage your time. I do have a couple of other links at the top here. First is help setting up the course videos. Now, if you open up the link right here, it basically has you go through some basic orientation for how do you get started with MyITLab. And I would highly recommend that you guys click and open these. So you can click on it, open it, and it says watch this. And it's not really that intuitive, but there's a video link right here, getting started with MyITLab. When you click on that, it takes you to YouTube or a YouTube channel, and it starts to present the materials. And it goes over something that looks very similar to what we're doing. This is just a slightly different textbook. And they're going to go over virtually the same thing as you can see here. I think I had it right here is the to-do list, and there's the menu. So this will orientate. So if you have any questions about how the system works, this is definitely a recommendation for you guys to look at. All right, so going back, after you've done that, you can answer, true or false, whichever one you think it is. I don't know which one, I won't give it away here. And you can submit and finish. Even though I haven't finished, it's warning me. And when I do that, I think it's going to record. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to stop that, go back. And it says I did 2 attempts now, and I got 100%. Well, I think I did it once before. It tells you whether you passed. You need, I think on these ones, 70% to pass these ones. These are not graded. These are just for your own knowledge, so you don't get assessed for these. Now I'm going to go back to my path here under my courses, and let's go back to the next folder. Next folder here is your e-textbooks. Now your e-textbooks, there's 3 of them. So there's the operating system e-textbook, which is only about 25 pages. Then there's Word. We're only going to cover chapters 1, 2, and 3 in Word. And then finally there's the Excel, which we cover chapters 1 to 10 in Excel. So those are your textbooks. And if you open up, let's say, the operating system textbook right here, it opens up a secondary window, and you have to click on OK. Now I had paused the video because it was buffering, and I didn't realize, but I had already opened up the Excel textbook. So I'll just show you the Excel textbook instead of the other one. Oh, there, it finally loaded. It does take a little bit of time. You have to be patient with how this system works. So up in the upper left hand corner here, you can click on the content, and it'll tell you that there's basically a chapter right here. That's just the only one. And what we want you to understand in this chapter is the basic fundamentals of an operating system and how to use your environment. When you're in a workplace and you have to set things up, you want to make it more comfortable and easier to use and put all the tools that you use for your job. And that's what this chapter is really entitled or trying to teach. So I'll go through, and you can read through the pages here, and just, how, like what the recycle bin is. I'm sure most of you know what that is. If you don't, go through and read it. How do you customize your desktop? And there will be assessment questions on the quiz on all of these. Like, what's the task view, for example? Do you know what the task view is? And identifying all the components of a window. And of course, Mac will be slightly different than this. How do you resize? Of course, all that's really straightforward. A lot of this you can probably skim over quite quickly, and so on. So the first chapter, the operating system, is just a very basic introduction. We just want students to have a sort of a basic benchmark of knowledge of how the operating system works. Now, if you've worked with Macintosh, this is an opportunity to learn Windows 10, because you probably be working with a Windows 10 environment when you're in the office environment. All right, so that's the e-textbook, and I'll just show you, there's the Excel, so it works in the same way. And you'll see here that there's the chapter 1 and chapter 2 and so on. So, and I'll be going through these in detail with my personal lectures that I'm posting on YouTube that you can watch that will go through similar learning objectives. So that's the textbook that you're going to be using, and they can be found, of course, in the MyITLab. All right, let's move on. Now, in week 1, which is at the time of this recording, we're going to be doing the operating systems, and that's what's on the course outline. That's what's in the MyITLab. And so what you need to do is go through these. And this is not a difficult course by any stretch, but there's a lot of details to go through, a lot of things to know and understand. And I'll be assessing on that. And so if you look at how this is organized, it starts off with an audio PowerPoint presentation. So what that is, it's the publisher has come up with basically a virtual instructor. It's like replaces me as an instructor. And it goes through and it's talking about working with an operating system. What are the objectives of this particular? They want to go through, make sure you understand what Windows 10 is. There you go. So you can see that there's an audio. You can sit back and you can watch this and go through it. And it probably takes, I don't know, maybe 25 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. If you watch this and you follow along, what other students have told me they've done is they've watched it on their iPad or their phone, and then they perform the functions at the same time. It's like watching a virtual instructor. So this is one approach to learning the learning objectives in the course. All right, so I'm going to close that down. And now, another way of going through this is to watch the videos. Now, there's in this case, there's 3 more videos on talking about how to do hands-on exercises. These will also be what you're assessed on. So if you watch these, you learn them, you should do very well on the assessment. And these are a video interpretation of all the learning objectives. Again, it takes away a lot of the teaching responsibility from me. Although I'll be doing my own lectures, this gives students another opportunity to learn in another way. And I don't know if you can hear this, but yeah. Anyway, so there's the instructor is talking as he goes through this, and what's nice about these videos is they're somewhat interactive. So they'll say take a quiz, and you can answer the questions. You can pick whatever one you want and submit the answer, and it'll come back and say whether or not you want to, continue. And they're doing a check to see if you're understanding what's going on. So again, this doesn't take very long. It might take another 20 minutes to go through. Well, this one here, I think, is 8 minutes, to give you an example. So 8 minutes isn't very long. And it goes through, explains it, and it asks you, do you understand it? It asks you questions, okay? And it goes through, in quite a bit of detail, all of the learning objectives for chapter 1. So this is another way you can learn. So if you like that type of method, that's another option for you guys. All right, now this link is a note to students for the data files. Now, there may be a time in maybe Excel that you need to have data files. Now, in this particular chapter, there might be some files like they want you to change the background image, like JPEGs, and how you manipulate them. So I put all of the working files for each chapter. So this is the operating system's data files. When you click on this, it will come up with a link that you can simply download the student data files, and you can follow along. All right, now it comes to getting you guys to practice what you've learned. So in the first portion right here, we've learned different ways of, these are basically the similar learning objectives. Now what we want to do is practice. Now this simulation is a very interesting tool. It's a great tool. And how the simulation tool works is that it puts you into a live situation, asks you a question, and you have to simulate the results. All right. So here's an example of how that would work. All right, let me go back to question, let's see here. All right, I've been going through a bit of this, so I'm already on question 3, but here's how the simulated environment works. Now, to get started here, at the top, now it's basically just showing you the desktop as if like a simulated desktop. Down here is the question they're going to ask you, and if you want, you can make it larger, smaller, whatever is comfortable for you to read it. And then over here is your navigation for your question. So if you want to skip the question, you can go back. Now I've already completed the first 2 questions, so it's just moved me on. This tells me how many attempts I have at trying to answer the question, and if I get it wrong 5 times, then the computer will actually tell me how to do it. If I can't wait for that, I can always go back up here and get the computer to tell me how to do it through watching or through practicing the simulation. Reset means if I've clicked on a whole bunch of things and I've kind of messed everything up, I can click on reset, and then it'll just reset the question back to allow you to start from fresh. It's not going to reset your number of attempts. It's just going to reset the computer so that if you're just clicking, this reset kind of starts it from the beginning again. And this just tells you your bandwidth and if you need help. And if you want to work on this and then you want to save your changes and then come back to them like I have. So at this point, I've already completed question number 1 and 2, so I don't want to have to go back and redo those. So when I'm finished, even if I do one question, I can save it and come back to it later. But if I click submit, it means submit this assignment and then it marks it. So you don't want to do that. Even though you could go back and redo this, I'm going to allow students to do these simulations as many times as they want. But if you do this, it's going to go back to question number 1. So I'm going to go submit. I'll show you that, how that works. And now it tells me in here that I only got 12.73% because I only finished the first 2 questions. I only spent 4, well, that doesn't really make too much sense, 4 seconds. I did 1 attempt on this day, and this is data that I can track. So as students are doing their work, I can see what they're doing. I can get engaged with what they're doing. I can follow along with what you guys are doing as well. All right, so let's go back into that same one. We'll open it up. All right, now here's what it looks like from question 1 of 26. So this is 26 learning objectives from the operating system. So everything you learn in here will be on the simulated test. So if you perform this and you're good at this, you're going to do very well on the assessment. So here's how it works. It says here that you want to sign into Windows. So they want just to see if everybody starting off on a fresh start, they want to make sure that everybody can log in, of course. And I'll show you a little trick here. If you just copy this or select it, copy it, and paste it in here, it'll tell you. And this is my own computer asking me to save. I'll say no thank you. And I've completed that task. You see here, it just wanted me to see if in an operating system, if I know how to log in. And now it says display the home page of the settings window. Now, you may not know how to display the home page of settings windows, change the desktop background, this one right here, to the picture of a butterfly located in the pictures folder. All right, well, how do you do that? How do you change the background image of your operating system? Well, if you go through the videos and you go through the PowerPoint, it'll explain that learning objective. Now, if you still want to know, people use this tool as actually their learning method. So here's another way of learning. You can sit here and say, I'm not sure how to do that. So I can click on my learning aids. This will actually walk me through the process. Now I can watch a video, which is the video that they would have shown in the previous learning objective, or you can practice. Now this is kind of a neat way. I prefer this method myself because it simulates.
In the notifications area, click the Action Center icon, and then
So you'll hear him reading and telling you and talking you through the step. It'll say, okay, on your taskbar in your desktop here, you want to click on this icon right here, this notification area, down here, notification area, and click on this. It highlights it, and then it says here, and he's actually reading this out. So if you might not be able to hear it on my speaker.
taskbar, in the notifications area, click the Action Center icon, and then click All Settings.
So then it says click All Settings. So it's getting you to understand how do you change the background by going through that process, and then. All right, and then the next thing it wants, you did try it. So I said, oh, okay, I remember how to do this. You got to go to the notification area, and then you got to click on all settings. And then down here it says change the desktop background to the butterfly. So where in here do I want to change the desktop background? Now I might know how to do it at that point. So I would go through here and say, oh, there's background right here, my personalized settings. That looks like it. If I didn't know, I could still click back here and it would tell me how to proceed. So you kind of can work with the system. All right, so when I clicked on the background, and it says here to change the background to a butterfly. Okay, so change it to there's no butterfly here. So I might get stuck, or I might know that I can browse, and it says to look for it in the pictures folder. And there's the pictures folder, and there's the butterfly, and you can click choose picture, and there you go. Now it's asking to change the lock screen, which is a different, so you can tell the difference between when the computer's locked or just when you're working your desktop. So there's the lock screen, and again, I want to click on browse, and I want to do the Bahamas. That's this one here. It's very clear. So I can select it and say choose the picture. And now it says close the settings window. So from here, this is the settings window. So let me just move that over here so you can see it, and you can close it. I can close it here, and I think I can close it. I think that's might be the only way to close it, unless there's a close button at the bottom. And I have completed the question. So question number 2 is complete, and I can move on to question number 4. And it goes like that throughout the entire mode. So it's taking you through each learning objective, and it's very mechanical in how it's doing it. So it tells you how many points it's worth, what question, what learning objective that you're actually doing right here, searching in Windows. Like, how do you search in Windows? How do you find things? I mean, we've all had this, times where we're trying to figure out how to do something, and how do you do it? How do you figure out how to do it? Well, let's go back into the search bar and try searching for it. Try looking for it. And that's what they're trying to get you to learn in the operating system, is how to use the basic Windows 10 operating system. All right, so from here, I think that's probably enough of this. Now, I've got to this stage. I'm at question 3, so I'm going to save my work and say OK. That way I can come back to it and simply click on that simulation right here and return and keep it going. Now, that's the same for this one here. You'll see here using the File Explorer simulation. Now, this one's probably more important even, because this is teaching how to use the File Explorer and how to manage your files. Very important for any job, how to keep and be organized in how you do it. And there's a lot of tips and tricks in here. I get students who are quite good at computers. They go through this and they say, oh, I learned a lot of really useful tips in this area right here. Same with the simulated training. So again, those 3 training videos will help you prepare for the quiz. Now, I put a practice quiz this week. You guys can go in here and have a look at it. And this will show you how the practice quiz, or how a quiz works prior to you guys doing it next Friday at the time of this recording, right? It would be, usually I give students from the beginning of the week until you have to get a quiz, you get 2 weeks time to work on your materials. All right, so in this case right here, this is the situation. And if you look at the quiz, it's the same question virtually. So all you have to do is go in here and say, okay, how do you sign in? Okay, well, enter in this, and you can type it in, or you can select it, copy it, paste it, and double check that's the correct one. And sure enough, it is. Now, if you make a mistake, okay, so for example, in this next question, display the home page setting. Okay, display the home page. You don't know what it is, so you click this right here. No, that's not that. It's not this. So click, oh, right, it's there. And you still forget. Is it this one? Oh, incorrect. Incorrect. And it's deducting the number of clicks right here. During the assessments, you only get 4 attempts at a question. So if you're just randomly clicking on things and you're not getting it right, what I recommend is that you read the question again, stop what you're doing. You could hit the reset key. Okay, so take a deep breath, display the home page, and with the assessment, you'll notice here that there's no learning aid. So it's the same as the simulation with no learning aid, and the remaining attempts would be 4 instead of 5. Now, if you don't get it right, let me go back in here, and I'll click on quit. Attempts exceeded. Once I exceeded my attempts, it moves me to the next question right here. So you can see that the assessment is very similar to the simulations. By doing the simulations, you're practicing to do the quizzes. All right. All right. When you're done, you can click on submit, and it takes In this particular quiz, I put up 28 minutes, but most of the quizzes, you guys have, I think, 10 minutes to do the quiz. And if you need more time, like an extra 5 minutes, you can make a request and I can up the time to 15 minutes. All right, so we click on OK, submit, and it will mark your test. Now, it looks like I got 20% on that quiz just by doing that one. That's pretty easy, to say the least. And it tells me how many attempts and also when I did it. Now, this particular quiz, I allow you to do unlimited amounts. You can practice until you get the idea of how the quizzes work. Now, the simulations and the quizzes are virtually identical, except the simulation gives you the training, where the quizzes, the green ones, they don't. And that's where we check your knowledge. All right, so let's move on to the next week, and I'll go through, and you'll see here that there's going to be a pattern forming here. So with Word, we've got chapters 1, 2, and 3. Now, I'm kind of assuming that people know a little bit how Microsoft Word works already. So what we're doing here is showing chapters that are beneficial for students to know, and everybody should have at least a basic foundation in Microsoft Word. If you're going to be working in an office, if you look at job postings, every single one say must be proficient with Microsoft Word and Excel and Outlook and that kind of stuff. And that's what we're trying to do here. And you can see here, this is chapter 1, 2, and 3. And you might think, wow, that's 3 chapters. And it is. But in this case, I'm not going to assign any quizzes for the Word, just an assignment for Word, chapters 1, 2, and 3. All right, so there's not going to be any quizzes for the Word. But during week 2, you'll notice here that the previous week's assessment is here. So week 1, we talked about OS. In week 2, we take the quiz on OS. And that's reflected in the course outline. All right, then let's move to let's move to Excel now. Now this course is called Excel for Business, and you can see for the majority of the work and the majority of the course is on Microsoft Excel. But the course curriculum, we do want you to learn operating system, some Word, but the majority is Excel. So we're going to focus in on Excel, and that's really where I'm going to come in with my lectures and start posting those on YouTube. But you'll see that the pattern will be very similar, with the exception of an assignment. So this is the first assignment that you're going to see. So let's just carry on. I don't have to explain these because we've already gone through those. Let's click on the assignment. Now, how the assignment works is it gives it to you in a sort of a written format, almost like you were given a regular instructions to do something in a written form. So you got to go through these 4 steps. So the first step is to download the materials, and in this case there is a working file, a document file, and then there's instructions. So you can download them individually or you can download them as a group. So I'll download them all, and it says down here, yeah, and I'll just open that up, and I'll double click. Now I'm going to do this off. Okay, and then I'm going to, all right, so I downloaded the file, and there's 2 files. One is the instructions, that's here on the left, and then the second file is the actual assignment that you have to perform. So what you want to do is go through the instructions. Step 1, you want to download and open up this file, which is right here. I already did that, and it's worth no points. They don't give you points for downloading it. And then the next thing you want to do is the document, it was created in an earlier version of Word. So the document here was created in Word 97, and they want you to format it so that it is saved in a newer version. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm simply going to go back up into now my screen is difficult to see because I've got, all right, so there we go. I just have to move my screen down a little bit. So we're going to File, and I'm going to save it in a newer format. So I'm going to File and Save As, and it wants me to save it. This is very important. You're going to save it with your last name and first name at the end of the file name. So I'm going to go back here. Let me just move over a bit so you can see what we're doing. It's kind of difficult with multiple screens. And you can see here, it wants you to name it right here, right this. And I'm going to copy that right here. copy and paste it right there, and take out last name, first name. I'm going to type in Caldwell and Ryan, just like that, just like the format. But you can see here it was done in an older version, which is a document file, which is the pre kind of Office 360 style, and we have a new docx file type, so we want to save it like that. And we can say save. Now, where am I going to put it? I guess I should store it. Hold on, I'll find it. All right, I created a folder here called Word inside my downloads, and I've named the file properly, and it's the correct type, and I'm going to save it. All right, so I have now completed, I'm going to move that over here. I've completed step number 2. And again, I got no points for saving in the proper format. All right, so moving, and it's asking for you to check the spelling. So as you go through this right here, the document, you can see here in red that there's some typos, so we can make a correction. You can make it manual if you want, or you can, there's another error. I believe they want it as whisk. There we go. Apples is correct, I believe. So you got to go through, and what they're doing is they're checking to see if you know how the spell checker works and how to edit your document. And that's worth 9 marks. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can go through those and make the changes. And once you've made the changes, you want to make sure you save your work, and then we're going to submit it. All right, so assuming that we've downloaded the files, we've read the instructions, we've completed the tasks, we're going to go to step 2. So I'm back in MyITLab, and now we want to go through, and we could preview the steps. This is basically what I just did. It's previewing the same steps. So you can see here I downloaded the instructions. The next one was I saved it into a new format, and I gave it my name, etc. So we could assume that let's assume I've completed. Now I haven't, so my mark is going to be really poor on this. So let's go back, and I will choose my file now. So I have to know where all right, so I click on open up my file, and here it is right here. There's my Word assignment and my name on it. Perfect. And I'm going to go back in here and say open, and that's the file. Let's make sure it's uploaded. So there's a 2-step process there, and you can see in green that it was successfully done. And from there, I'm going to submit for grading. And it says, kudos, the file has been submitted for grading. So that's it. You have downloaded your file, you've made the changes to the file, you've uploaded your assignment, and it's now been marked. All right, so from here, we can go back and see how we did. So you can see here I got a very low score. I got 0 basically for some reason. So I can go back and find out how I did. Like, what did I do wrong? So let's go back in and look at that. Now, this is not intuitive, which is unfortunate, but if you want to get the feedback for your assignments, you want to click on the Word assignment and click on your score right here. So let's click on score. Let's say continue. All right, let's not click on the score. It can actually be done here under view your submission. So this is how you find your feedback on how you did on your assignment. Why did you get that particular score? So you click on view the submission right there, and it'll tell you, and this is what's not very intuitive. It says exclamation mark that you were below the 50% threshold, obviously 0. And when you click on the 0 or the grade, it'll actually come up and tell you how you did. It'll say I got 0 for this particular, I must not have saved my work before I uploaded it, probably is what happened. Otherwise I would have got probably 9 out of 9 marks. Now if you want to get into more details in here, you can click on the pull down. It'll tell you how it did that. If you were able to find the typo here, it would have given you 4.5. If you would have typed in apples without the extra P, it would have given you another 4.5 right there. So it'll break down the exact error that you did. It'll give you the feedback exactly on what was done right and what was done wrong. You can also download a report. You can download your submitted file. So I can always go back in, I can download what you have submitted, or you can actually download the live comments. Then we do that, it comes up with another file here. Let's open that. So I'll open up my Word, and I'll pop it up here, and it shows me kind of what the detailed feedback is. And when I go through, it's telling me here why I lost these points. It'll give me in very, very granular detail of what happened. So I must not have changed my text. I thought I did it, but maybe I didn't. So the nice thing about these assignments is if you've done it, you've submitted it, and you haven't got a perfect mark, you can go back and you can fix it and resubmit it. So all of the assignments I allow students to go back and do twice. So you can do it once, you can go back into your feedback and find out what was done right and what was done wrong, fix what you did wrong, and then resubmit it. I find a lot of students are getting well into the 90s on their assignment marks because they can go back and they can correct it. I do that because I want students to go back, look at their feedback, find out what they did wrong, because it's what you did wrong which you don't know, and then fix it. So you can see here I didn't change that word. I thought I did, but I didn't. So now I can go back, I can make a change to that and make sure it's done properly the second time. So you will get 2 attempts at your assignments. If you don't get it after the second attempt, you can still look at what you did wrong and think, oh, I should have done that, could have changed it and it would have worked. But you get 2 attempts basically. All right, so that gives you a pretty good idea, should give you an idea of how to open up the assignments, how to start to complete the assignments, and then how to get your feedback on your assignments. So from here, it would be the grades. So from here, if you want to know your grades are, you can click on back one step, and then you can click on grades. Now, because I'm the instructor, I don't want all the student grades to pop up and even a list of the student names here. But when you guys click on grades, it will show you all the activities you've done and the current grade that you've got. So you should know exactly what marks you're getting at any particular time in this course. Another thing I'll say here is I do have students that work ahead. Because you have access to all this material, some students just buckle down and they'll do several hours in a day for a few days, and they'll get 1 or 2 chapters ahead of the class, which is good. If you want to do that, that's your option to go ahead and do that. I would say though, don't submit your files until they're getting close to being due, because you might want to modify them or change them. I did have students that were working ahead and they were submitting stuff, and then they wish they had waited. So anyway, just make a note of that. All right, so if you open up the grades and you go to your custom view, you'll see here of what you've completed. So basically, these are all the assessments in the course as we progress through. Now, just to kind of explain here, I've gone over this as a quiz, and quizzes are worth between 1 to 2% according to the course outline. The assignments are worth about 2% each as well. And so whatever you get as a grade, you can start calculating your percentage of what you're getting as you work your way through. Now, you'll see this one right here. This is the midterm, and the midterm is going to be on Friday. I think I scheduled it from 3:30 till 5:30. In between that time frame, I think you have an hour and a half to do that. So the midterm will be done in 2 parts, and the midterm is done in part 1, which will be testing your Word. So even though I didn't give you any quizzes in Word, I will be assessing your Word in the midterm. So it's that chapter is very important, chapters 1, 2, and 3. And I think it's worth 8% for that part, and then 12% for part 2, which is the Excel chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it will be done in an assignment format. So what will happen is you'll be given the time to do it. You'll have to open it up, and it'll be virtually the same that you did up here in all of these. So if you've completed all these assignments right here, so there's assignment for Word 1, 2, and 3, you'll be duplicating a lot of the learning objectives in right here. All right, so you should see the same, not the same questions, but similar questions, same learning objectives. They want to test your knowledge on, did you learn those learning objectives? And that's how the midterm is going to work. Now, when it comes to the final is actually going to be a simulation. It's a comprehensive final. So that means that you are going to be given a simulated environment, and you have to basically show me how to use Excel. And this is a comprehensive from chapters 1 through 10 in the final. The final is about an hour and 45 minutes to complete. And it'll be basically very, very similar to all of the simulated assessment, simulated instructions. So all these blue ones. Now, these blue ones, you're not given marks for. These are just the practice, the labs, the homework that you're going to be doing. So you're not given marks for these, but I do track to see who is doing it and who's not. So some students I'll see that they're not doing these. I can probably guarantee that they're not going to do too well on the assessments as well. So all of your blue ones here you should do, because I will be tracking those as well. And you can see those in your learning, in your grade center. So it'll show up in this list right here. So basically everything in your grade center you should be completing to the best of your ability. All right, so that's kind of giving you an overview of how MyITLab works, how I'm expecting you guys to run or how I'm expecting to run this course. Now, the other part of this course will be my recorded lectures. Now, these recorded lectures, as I've mentioned earlier, will be talking about the same learning objectives, but it's just my personal examples that I give students that I think that are beneficial for students. For example, Excel Chapter 1, I start off by building a worksheet for students, with students to build their personal budgets. So this is something that everybody can benefit from, and I want you to build something that's your own personal information, your own personal data, because this is something that everyone would benefit from by doing your own personal budget. And then so on. I go through each week. I'll have a video series a lecture series that you can watch on YouTube, and I'll be posting those on the Blackboard course under the week. So under each week starting at week 3 till week 14, I'll be having my face-to-face kind of recorded asynchronous lectures. Hope that makes sense. All right, so that's pretty much for this video. I think I'll cut it off here, and I will see you guys in the next video.